Good morning. It's about 7:35 and we are packed up and ready to go. You remember that nice blue sky I showed you about 7 o'clock last night? By 8 o'clock it was raining again, and it continued to rain off and on. Around 9 or so we got a real deluge, but I stayed dry under the tarp. It mostly stopped raining, although we certainly have nothing like a blue sky. But you know, it was dimmer, cloudier, I think, when I got up. So we can hope. So we have 1.2 miles to go back out to 6 Mile Creek Trail, and well, I'll show you the map for the rest of the day's trip, and we'll see how it goes. After we leave Olmsted Pond Lean-To this morning, we'll continue on the Olmsted Pond Trail until we reach the intersection with the 6 Mile Creek Trail. We'll follow that southwest, passing Cowhorn Pond and its shelter. We'll then take the Cowhorn Junction Trail to the Cat Mountain Trail, which will take to the summit of Cat Mountain. We'll then pick up the High Falls Loop Trail, which will follow until we reach the Spur Trail and High Falls. It's 25 after 8, and we've come to the intersection with the 6 Mile Creek Trail. So we were on 6 Mile Creek for a short distance down that way, and down to West Flow is 1.3 miles. This is the way we just came from Olmsted Pond. I don't know if it's a policy in the Adirondacks not to call out shelters in their mileage signs, because it's not on there. And for the direction we're going, well, we seem to have lost our sign. But it's my spreadsheet is telling me 2.5 miles to the side trail to Cowhorn Pond shelter. So that's where we're going. When we crossed a kind of open area at the outflow of Olmsted Pond, we were able to determine that it is actually kind of misting just a little bit out there. My wife tells me the forecast is for a 40% chance of showers between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. Nice to know. So since the start of my hike, I've discovered there's some kind of fly that I'm not familiar with that's in this area. And they're about the size of a housefly, but they're kind of brownish and a little bit different shape. And they really like to buzz your head and, excuse me, scratch. They tend to get caught up in your hair. So my best defense against those is the buff. Just something to keep in mind if you're up here this time of year. It keeps them out of your hair anyway, and it seems to discourage them from buzzing your head quite so much. All right, so on to Cowhorn Pond Lean-To, and we do plan on making the short side trip in to check it out. It's now about 20 after 9, and we have come to the side trail to the Cowhorn Pond lean-to. So 2/10 of a mile in, the sign is saying, and we'll go take a look. Weather hasn't changed. There was about 5 seconds of sunshine just after leaving the last junction, and I hoped it was a trend, but obviously it wasn't. So the Cowhorn Pond lean-to is a typical Adirondack lean-to, but it's got some features, not in the lean-to itself, but in the area, that make it a little more appealing than the Olmsted Pond lean-to. First of all, it's a little more open, which is going to be nice, except on maybe, well, a few hot days. And there's a nice big tenting area that also has some opportunities for setting up hammocks, which was a feature missing again at Olmsted. So very pleasant. We'll go take a look at the pond. So Cowhorn Pond is very nice. There's a bit of a sand beach here, which is unusual in my experience lately. And a boat. Doesn't look particularly seaworthy. You probably can't see it, but it is still misting slightly. You'd probably call it rain. I don't know if you can see anything from here in good weather, but nothing beyond the shore is visible now. It's about 9:45, and we're back at the 6 Mile Creek trail and ready to continue. Assuming my mileages are correct, I did the 2.5 miles from the junction with the Olmsted Trail to here in about 50 minutes. So obviously that trail was pretty nice and pretty easy. And it's now 2/10 of a mile on to Cowhorn Junction, so we should be there pretty soon. It's now 5 minutes of 10, and we are at Cowhorn Junction. So our trail continues on downhill over here. Back the way we came, of course, is West Flow. This sign only points to Wanakina and High Falls. High Falls is our destination for the day, so 5.8 miles, although we have a side trip to Cat Mtn. And here we have a trail to Big Deer Pond and Lowe's Lake and whatnot, and I'm surprised to see that, because my trail guide said that actually the trails leading south from here were abandoned after a big windstorm sometime in the 1990s. There's something wicked came through large parts of the Adirondacks, or at least the western Adirondacks. Knocked down a lot of trees, and some trails were abandoned. And apparently this was one of them, but also apparently it's been reclaimed. So I was going to tell a cautionary tale here that if you have the National Geographic Map series, then that trail is on the map, and you should be cautious because it may not exist, but now it does exist. Well, I'm going to stick with the cautionary tale anyway. Don't depend on just the National Geographic maps for trip planning. You need other sources of information as well. Okay, so it's now on. Actually, our interim destination is the spur trail to the summit of Cat Mtn, and it is 1.1 miles. It is 10:30, and we have reached the side trail to the summit of Cat Mtn. This sign says 0.7, some other source said 0.6, doesn't really matter much. I don't have much hope that we're going to see anything when we get up there, but we've come this far. Sometimes even the fog is nice. It's 5 minutes of 11, and we have reached the summit of Cat Mountain. As I suspected, there's a great view of the fog. So, the ascent isn't too bad. Pretty much, it's eroded in places, rocky, rooty, but the slope isn't too bad, and there's places that are even flat. Until you get to a place that's right before the end here, where there's like 200 feet that are pretty vertical and also pretty badly eroded. But, well, when you get there, you know you're close to the end. So anyway, you know, from other people's trips up here, there is more to be seen, if you can see anything, by continuing on along this rocky prominence in that direction, but there's no point in bothering today. Not only won't we see anything, but the rocks will be all wet and slippery, and we might fall and die. So we have some emergency fire control radio equipment, it says here. Used to be a fire tower, apparently. Well, no point in dawdling then. We'll make our way back down, which might take longer than coming up, because there's a lot of you know, wet sloped slabs of granite to navigate, and well, we'll need to be careful. It took about 20 minutes to get down the spur trail from Cat Mountain, so a little less than the time to go up, which I suppose would be expected. So we're going to continue in this direction towards Wanakina. The sign here says 4.75 to Wanakina, but that's if you took the short way. But we're going to take the long way, following the High Falls Loop Trail in a clockwise direction, similar to the direction we're going on the Cranberry Loop 50. So, and it's 9/10 of a mile until we hit the intersection with the High Falls Loop. So what for me is the far end of Glasby Pond. I'm not sure what compass direction that is. North, I'd guess. There is an official campsite. Space for a couple of tents and maybe a hammock or two. In a place with really nasty roots, so I don't think any tenters will be tempted to set up there. And there is a fire ring, and there is an open privy, just a seat, and it's not really as private as I would like if I was going to use it. Anyway, don't know how far we are along on our trek to the High Falls Loop, but we'll persevere. It seems to be raining again a little bit. Oh, I forgot to mention, so for that section of trail between Cowhorn Junction and the Cat Mountain Spur Trail, it rained pretty heavily. So that forecast that my wife gave doesn't really seem to be in effect. It's pretty much intermittent rain all day is what it seems like now. And every once in a while, a teaser of just a tiny bit of sunshine. It's about 12:15, and we have finally come to the intersection that brings us to the High Falls Trail. That section of trail between Cat Mountain Spur Trail and here is pretty rocky, rooty, and wet. Continuing on the High Falls Trail, we're given to expect wet. I'm not sure about rocky and rooty. So if you went the other way, you'd take the short path to Wanakina, 3.6 miles. But as it is, we've got 2.9 miles to High Falls, and that'll do it for the day. We are just under an hour since we joined the High Falls Loop Trail. And I wasn't sure where this feature was, but, well, it's here. This is the Log of Death. It probably has other names. But that's got to be 50 or 60 feet across. One log. At least it gets wider as it goes across. If I was braver than I am, I'd film it, my crossing, but I'm not going to do that. I really wish it was not wet, but I can't wait for it to dry out. So here we go. Well, I made it, but it was not a pretty sight. I kind of inched myself along, and my foot did slip once back there where it's not kind of squared off on the top. Anyway, well, I wasn't looking forward to that, and now I'm glad it's over. Let's see, on other news, the sun has been playing cat and mouse with us again. We got some blue sky, some sun, then some rain. More blue sky, more sun, more rain. Not doing much of anything. We got just a mist going on. I have reason to believe that the mileage at that sign back when we joined the High Falls Loop was not right. I think it said 2.9 to High Falls. And my information, in my spreadsheet, which came from multiple sources, is that it's 3.4 to the side trail for High Falls, and then another 4 into the falls. So, 3.8 altogether. Sorry to be slow on the math. 3.8. So almost a mile further than that sign said. Doesn't really matter. So it's, I should have said 1:15 now, and now it is raining. So it's about 1:15, and I am unexpectedly at the High Falls shelter. So mileage is kind of screwed up, I guess. There might be a whole bunch of people coming in right behind me. I'm not sure if they're campers or not, but I'm not going to stay in the shelter, obviously, so I'll look around for a place for a hammock. And I'll give you a tour as well, I guess. So I am above the falls. Looking around. Still trying to find a place to put up a hammock. No luck yet. I found tent site number 14, so I guess there's a lot of them. I don't think that large group behind me was campers. There's mention that there's also a shelter on the other side of the river, primarily intended to be used by canoers and the like. Obviously not easy to get to. So I've been looking around for a place to camp and coming up empty. Sign on that tree is actually saying follow the arrows, which takes you to a campsite surrounded by 2-inch trees. And there's nothing in the immediate vicinity of the shelter itself. There's other campsites that are obviously illegal, although they do not have a do not camp here sign. But, the one I found that's obviously heavily used is right next to the river, and I don't really want that noise all night either. So, what I think I'm going to try to do is set up between that huge tree and this smaller tree. Not great looking, but still alive. The problem is I don't know if even my 10-foot tree strap will go around that. I think it should. So it's about 2:25 now, and we are pretty much all set up in that spot with the big tree and the little tree. The 10-foot strap went around that with, yeah, maybe even a foot to spare. So that's why it's good to have a long strap. Let's see. Oh yeah, things got kind of confusing towards the end. After I crossed the log of death a short time later, I actually passed two guys. First guys I've seen since Monday morning, and they came through. Excuse me, arm's getting tired. Carrying long sticks. Brilliant. And they said there were probably already long sticks down there at near the log for help with balancing, and I didn't think to look around for one. So here's a clue: if you're going to do that, look around at either end to see if somebody's left you a nice long stick, like an 8-footer. And if there is, use it. That's my advice. And they mentioned there were a couple of people who were at the shelter here at High Falls who were planning on leaving and hiking in the same direction they were. And I knew that the High Falls Loop area was going to be more popular than the back of the Cranberry Loop 50, and that is turning out to be true. So then a short time later, I got to the junction where the High Falls, the trail to High Falls, leaves the Cranberry Loop 50 and the High Falls Loop Trail, and there was this gaggle of young girls there, and I didn't look too closely, but then it occurred to me that, thinking back after I left them, that they did not have camping gear, but they were hanging out there, so I didn't film there. And then I assumed that they were the people who were headed following the two guys with the long sticks, but they weren't, because they immediately started following me. And that's the group I was referring to when I got to the shelter and said, "There's a group coming in after me." So I met them, and then I met the two hikers who were the people with the long sticks we were referring to, and they were just leaving, two backpackers. And since then, I've met two canoers out on the river. They're going to portage around the falls and continue on their way, I think. So not everything got filmed. We'll try to catch that all on the way out, since we have to redouble our steps, or retrace our steps. So that's what's going on now. So I'm thinking I need to take a bath and put on my camp clothes, because I can't lie down in my hammock. I'm going to be doing some book reading, I'm sure, but I can't lie down in my hammock wearing these pants. I just won't do it. So I guess we'll start heating up some water and go about that business. It's about 3:15 now, and I've had my bath and changed into clean clothes, and I'm wandering around taking a look at things. I was hampered in doing a full tour before because there were so many people here. So down in this area, those two backpackers who were headed towards the Log of Death had decided to kind of camp out down here, not literally, but they were trying to get pictures of themselves with the falls, and they were making eyes at each other, and I didn't want to interrupt them. And up on the rocks to the left there were a bunch of teenage girls, I would guess, kind of sunning themselves. Where in the world they would have come from, I have no idea. They certainly couldn't have come from Wanakina. So there must be some other camp or something. Anyway, that's High Falls. Nice, huh? So it's still spitting rain occasionally, like right now. So I won't dawdle. This is the other overused campsite I mentioned. So there are trees here you could string a hammock up on. but between the overusedness and the noise, it wouldn't be my first choice. It's about 25 after 4, and we've been reading a little. But I think I'll go ahead and start the process for dinner. The sun went away entirely. We're now quite overcast, although it hasn't rained again, other than a spritz or two. But the temperature is falling. It's down to about 62, so that's only a few degrees, but I guess I'm just cooling off. So, and I'm hungry. So, as I said, we'll go ahead and get that started. Well, I think we'll have chili mac tonight. So here's our chili mac covered with water. And our Bush Buddy stove acting as a windscreen and thermal insulator for our Mini Bull Design M7 alcohol stove, resting on our 2Q ZQ tree shelf. Okay, our chili mac is boiling, so we'll take that off the heat, and as is our practice lately, we will let that rehydrate for a full half hour. I hope the glare isn't too much. I'm just happy to be in the sun. So these rocks were dry before, but they're wet again. They should dry out again soon, I would think, if these clouds continue to clear. Well, there's some dark ones over there. Maybe it's just playing with us again. Although the forecast for tomorrow is sunny and warmer, 72, which is about as warm as I'd like it. So our chili mac has completely rehydrated. It's a little bit soupy, but that's okay. And we'll eat it. All of the sky that I can see is completely overcast. And it's starting to sprinkle. It's been like this all day, just back and forth. It's about 7:30, and well, nothing else has happened. After we finished dinner, we packed everything up, hung the air sack, got in bed. We've been reading, and we'll continue to read the Kindle. From what I can hear, I'm still alone here, despite the crowds that were here earlier this afternoon. Well, I can't really tell you what color the sky is, and you're probably tired of hearing me tell you, since it never seems to make any difference for more than the next 5 minutes. So we're looking forward to a dry day tomorrow, maybe. Although I figure that for a good part of the day, our feet will still be wet. Just a guess. All right, good night.